from the desk of the editor, joined by Dr. Leonard Thompson III here as we do this program. This evening we're having an open mic approach. We have so many issues to talk about, the politics, the storm, the candidates, and local issues, national, state. And so the Voice and Viewpoint has been publishing a voter's guide, positions on the propositions, where you can find a drop box of mail or whatever. We're putting all of it up, and we've moved into recommendations on candidates for particular positions. And so we welcome your input. We're not telling you how to vote. It's just that people have asked us over the years, what would our recommendations be? And so we provide those just based on that. And the choice is always yours in terms of the box and how you use it. So if you wish to be with us by phone for a question or comment, it's 858-251-6111, or you may go to godradio1.com on the internet. If you want to send something in terms of a question or comment, and that's available to do so. And so, Dr. Thompson.
Well, good morning, good evening. I say good morning, but good evening to everybody. We are here for another riveting conversation. Again, Dr. Warren, so much is going on in the world, and believe it or not, I would like to go to world news first, impacting the war over in Gaza and with the Palestinians and the Hamas and the Jewish, I call it the Jewish outright mark against the situation that's taking place there. So let's start there.
Well, there are about 5 world events that involve violence and people right now going on. Of course, a lot of folks are looking at the fact that this is 2 days after the anniversary of October 7th, a year ago, when Hamas went in and slaughtered 1,200 people in Israel, took hostages. Over 95 hostages are still missing. We don't know if they're alive or dead, including a couple of children. Over 40,000 people in Gaza have died. Bombardment is still taking place. Israel, even yesterday, launched another ground assault. They've bombed hospitals, schools, wherever. And their position is that Hamas is hiding behind civilians, and they are showing no mercy. And it's creating quite an international stir because as much as America, through President Biden, wants to be supportive as we are partners of Israel, we don't want to be lumped into the genocide, as people are calling what's happening, with folks who are dying, many women and children in Gaza. And Gaza has basically been destroyed as a place to live. It had about 3 million people in it. It was about the size of Washington, really, 10 square miles, D.C., and it's just been decimated in terms of what's happened there to people. So that's a war. In the midst of that, Israel has launched assaults against Hezbollah, who is another group that is located in Lebanon, and they started attacking Israel from Lebanon when Israel started the assault against Gaza behind the massacre that took place. And so now we know that Iran is in the picture because they're providing the weapons and the arsenal. There's no way that Lebanon would be able to do 100 or 200 missiles a day if they weren't coming from someplace. So that's a big factor. And in Lebanon, there's Beirut, there are bombardments, people being killed. We saw Israel do something unique where they booby-trapped cell phones and pagers, killed a lot of people. So there's tremendous murder going on there. In the midst of that, the war is still going on in Ukraine. And even though Zelensky came here and met with the president and the vice president, and he met with Trump, I guess, out of a courtesy of covering bases, that was disastrous in terms of Trump standing with him, talking about how he was good friends with Putin. And so that's a mess. So now that war is still going Zelensky was at the UN during the anniversary a couple of weeks ago. He spoke there. As many world leaders come to New York annually for that event, and I've been there myself a couple of times for the UN anniversary. The last one I was at was when Mandela was here and Castro came back to the country after so many years. So those issues are going on. Separate from that, closer to home, we
Well,
have.
before you do that, my question is, what do you think will be the straw that says enough's enough? Because it just seems like it's getting bigger and bigger, and the violence is getting more and more. When will enough be enough for Israel to?
When Netanyahu is removed from office, that is the only thing. He's hanging like Trump. He's hanging on to some conservative supporters who want to murder everybody that they possibly can. And I understand part of that because the Arab element has always said that their goal is to completely wipe Israel from the face of the earth, okay? Mm-hmm. I remember Ahmadinejad making that statement before the UN, just blatantly. We don't want peace. We want to exterminate them. It's just the violence runs so deep in terms of what's going on. So until he's removed, Israel's going to continue this war of aggression, trying to kill everybody that they can. They're not going to wipe these people out. What they've done is created a new generation of haters based on the kids who have lost their parents and their relatives, and they're growing up and they're going to pick up arms. And the best reflection of that is what's happening right now in Haiti. Because what happened is Kenya agreed to put an international police force in Haiti to try and help what was left of Haiti authority take it from the gangs that were fighting each other and burning and killing. And now recent report shows that the children are taking up arms against the Kenyans. And so that's bringing in a whole new generation to do with the gangs what happened in Africa when they took those boys and they made them soldiers, and many of them were killed, and we saw the horror of their lives being run. So those are things that we have going on right now. In addition to all of that violence, what's being lost is the famine and the hunger, and almost 1 million people in the Sudan without food. They're on the verge of starvation. The weather conditions have destroyed crops and the whole bit. And so we got a lot going on in the world, Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that the Sudanese crisis has been going on for many, many, many years. And, and I think the troubling thing, and I go back to the war, is, I do feel for the Palestinians and the people that are losing their lives, but I still go back to the fact that Israel didn't start it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that as much as you should be upset with Israel for how aggressive they're becoming, I think that you should turn on Hezbollah and everybody else for starting this nonsense and pretty much being the ignition to all the things that are going on. I think that as much as you are angry about what's taking place, also be angry with who starts it. It's like someone that comes up and hollers fire in the theater, and then they run out and they get away, but everybody else get trampled. Or somebody that throws a rock and bust the window and then hide their hand. We got to, hold the people accountable for who did it also, and not just look at what's taking place.
Well, we got a number of things happening, okay? First of all, this weekend we have Yom Kippur, the highest of high holy days, the Day of Atonement in terms of Israel, going all the way back to God and Moses. So that's a special time, and people are coming together. But I would like to remind people that what happened a year and 2 days ago was a chess move. It was a move on a chessboard, and it was designed to take place with the gruesomeness with which it occurred, because what was happening in the Arab world is that Israel was moving toward an alliance with Saudi Arabia with the help of America. And Hezbollah and all of those elements over there, Hamas, they didn't want to see that, okay? And so Egypt is being pulled toward this thing right now. And so by making it as bloody as they made it, it destroyed any possibility of an Arab kingdom of the Saudi Arabia and Israel relationship coming together, which would have been a step closer for unity.
Yeah.
The radical factions didn't want that, and they stopped it by coming in, beheading people,
Yeah.
raping people, killing families, and everything was done and filmed to be as grotesque as possible.
Yes.
And the master plan was taking the hostages, because as long as they had hostages, they had some leverage against Israel. If it had not been for the hostages, Israel would probably gone in and nuked the whole Gaza Strip and killed everybody
Yeah.
with no guilt. Okay? And America has Americans that are hostages in this situation.
Yeah.
And we're turning out to be weak because we're not doing anything to do it. And we just saw the failure when we pulled off one commando raid and could rescue people. When we almost pulled off the second raid, the 3 men and the women, what did Hamas do? At the very last minute before they came in, they shot them all in the head and killed them.
Yeah.
To show that, no, you're not going to win on this. So
Yeah.
now let's come back to our home front. While we have all this going on, we are about 3 weeks away from a presidential election. And we have a woman who is really making an effort to bring America back together, pulling Republicans, independents, men, women, people from everywhere. It's been a miracle in terms of the support that's been rallied. We got Trump, who is continually going downhill in terms of what seems to be his mental ability, the things that he's saying. His rallies are being reduced in the number of people attending, and his group, they are holding on to him because, as I said in the piece that we have up that talks about the whole idea of how important it is of the elephant in the room being MAGA and not the Republican Party, they need him in office to implement Project 2025. So they don't care as long as he's conscious and breathing. They'll sign the papers for him. They'll make the speeches. They'll do all of that. They just need to get him in the White House by any means necessary. And one of the greatest tragedies in the past couple of weeks has been right after Hurricane Helen, you see Trump and them blaming the Democrats for the storm, blaming Democrats for the disaster, lying about FEMA and what we're doing, lying about what's being done now. The president's on the national network today as this storm is now in full blast hitting Tampa and the area, giving people how many thousands of troops have been activated, how the Department of Defense is in it, helicopters standing by, food, water, blankets, all kinds of support, waiting to rush in as soon as the storm breaks to rescue people. And meanwhile they're doing that, the Trumpers are standing around complaining about what's happening.
Oh, well, you would have loved this one that I had a conversation today, and someone said, well, you know, the Democrats are changing the weather so it'll work in their favor. Don't you think that the hurricanes are awful convenient at this point? The Democrats are behind. I'm like, so, okay, the Democrats are God? And they were like, no, but they're changing the weather. I was like, okay. So everything is always, everybody got this big conspiracy theory about everything.
Well, they're echoing Marjorie Taylor Greene because she started the stuff about the Democrats being in control of the weather, and we didn't know that we were in control of God. We thought God was in control, but Marjorie Taylor Greene has an inside pipeline, so she knows even more so, okay? What I want to encourage people to do is look at a story that we have coming out. It'll be online, and it talks about when people try to blame Kamala Harris for decisions, saying, well, she was in there and she was vice president. She was not president. She was there to be in support of the president. But I tell you what we did do, we went back and documented the 33 instances where she had to be the tiebreaker in the Senate because her job as vice president is president of the Senate. And we document all of those policy things that happened as a result of her vote and her being there. And so right now we just need to get registered, get out the vote. I have an editorial this week that says, remembering Dr. King and what he said about give us the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to his speech on May 17th, 1957 in Washington when the leadership came together after the 3 years of Brown versus Board of Education had not begun to produce the desired results. And he gave about 5 instances of what we could do if you gave us the ballot. Mm-hmm. That was 8 years before we got the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And here we have the right to vote now. And we got people saying, well, I don't know. I don't want to vote. It ain't going to make any difference. The apathy is sickening in terms of remembering how people died for us to have this right. And we got people just kicking back, so self-centered that they could care less about trying to help anyone.
Yeah, one of the things I think more than important than anything else is that you should not complain if you won't get involved and get in voting. And the sad thing I think is that when we look at our choices, the choices should be very clear that if we want to go steps back, especially for African American and Latino people, if we really want to go steps back and be disrespected openly, not just undercover, not covertly, but overtly disrespected, mistreated, laws that are not going to be fair to us, then we're going to put Donald Trump back in office. Now, here's the thing that I've been watching a lot of the evangelicals saying, and the evangelicals are moving about to say that the Democratic Party will be the demise of the church, and that will destroy the church if we allow the Democratic Party to continue to run based on the policies and things that they are putting forward. And I'm asking, how is that true when the Republican Party was supposed to be the family values party, but now you have a man that's 3 times divorced. He's been a 34-count felon. He has been accused of aggressive behavior, disrespectful behavior, disrespecting women, groping women, all of this stuff, having multiple affairs, abusive verbally and everything like that. But now we're the family values. So they don't even call themselves a family values campaign or the party, because they can't say that because of the fact that family values went out the door years ago.
Well, the evangelicals are trying to hold on to one issue, and that's being abortion, okay? Because we know that all life from that standpoint is important. In Jeremiah, God says, I knew you in the womb, and that becomes the catch foundation that no, life is important. So what do? They lie. They say that people are taking the babies out the womb and then killing them right there. No, you can't do that. That's that's murder. Yeah. But they don't care because they have no connection to the truth, number one, and they're not concerned about who's suffering. Now, Trump is talking about everybody who's an immigrant's got bad genes. Well, that triggers in my mind what Hitler did when he started the cleansing process. And so he's trying to make the history repeat itself. We ought to remember that when Hitler went against the Jews, the whole concept for genocide and purging, he got it from America. He didn't create it himself. He came from over here, and we're trying to come full circle.
Now let's be very clear, and Dr. Warren, you're a senior statesperson. From my research, abortion did not become an issue until little white babies were no longer able to be adopted, and that's when abortion became an issue, because they needed the white babies to stop being aborted so much, because they were on a high realm of abortion because they could afford to do it.
Well, I can take you back even more than that, because when we had the Economic Opportunity Act and we were doing all of these local nonprofit entities, there was a situation where health clinics were being made available to the poor, and Baltimore was one of the sites in which young girls were being brought in under the guise of free health care, and with government funds, they were sterilizing them without them knowing that it was taking place, okay? And that was back when we had the whole issue popping up, not only around in vitro fertilization, but even before that, having the tubal insertions that would block pregnancy, but the sterilization was taking place with a full impact, and Congress did major discussions about this. I sat in the hearings as they talked about where was the authority. Nobody went to jail for doing any of that, okay? And so They're single issue focused. They want to deal with just that. But how do you deal with you concerned about abortion, and so you're outlining incest, anything that happens, but you're not giving any care to the people who are suffering through this, while Kamala Harris on the other side is making child care available and health care and all of these other things that are important. And so that's where America has an obligation and is trying to make this a single issue thing because, as I've said for the past 3 or 4 weeks, the idea is to get Trump in office so that Trump can appoint 2 more federal judges, one to replace Thomas, who's going to step down, and the other to replace Alito. And if they can do that, they would have stacked the court 8 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay, basically almost 8 to 1 in terms of the way it's going. I don't want to be unkind to Sonia Mayor, and we know where Ketanji Brown Jackson will be. So it would be a very bad scene. Probably 7 to 2, I should say, instead of 8 to 1. The numbers would probably be 7 to 2.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to look at is, I yet to have not heard any real true policies about what Trump wants to do. But at least I do see Kamala coming forth with policies. And I'm going to tell you, just honestly, Kamala is not the savior. You know what I'm saying? And I want everybody to get that out of their mind that she's going to come and we'll have all these bells and whistles. She is a part of the whole entire puzzle that we need. We cannot do anything with Kamala in office if we don't get that Senate and we get the Congress. We need both of those two to move agenda items forward. Now, you can talk about the immigration issue. There have been several great plans from that have come forth of how we can deal with the immigration issue. Dr. Warren, you talked about, what was the program back in the day where they could come and work and then?
It was the Bracero program that we had back in the early 60s, between 63 and 65, and we allowed people to come over. The program was written by Education and Labor under Adam Clayton Powell, and people were giving work visas to come in. They worked. The farmers needed them. The crops needed them, and they went back home.
Yeah.
But even before that program, decades ago, it happened in Florida. There was an agreement with the islands. People would come over from the islands. They work. They go back home.
Yeah.
So this part is not new, but for Trump now to demonize people,
Yes.
and what makes it even more confusing for some folks is, there is a Latino-speaking element that supports him, but you must look to places like Florida, where that element represents people who became a part of the Cuban elite that came to Florida, as opposed to a Chicano or the Mexican Latino element on the West Coast, which are the working class people and the people doing the picking of the fruit and the vegetables and the whole thing. So we can't afford to just sit back and ignore what's taking place.
Now, Dr. Warren, here's something that, and I'm a little bit embarrassed by it. I didn't know that the Haitians spoke Spanish.
There are some Haitians that speak Spanish, because let's remember that the island that Haiti sits on is shared by the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Republic is Spanish-speaking. And in the past 2 years, there's been kind of a feud there with the border. Because of the poverty in Haiti, people were trying to come over into the DR, and so they have started expelling people. Even those who were Haitians living there, they put them out. So some of the Haitians who've come here as refugees, and I've had contact with some of them are Spanish-speaking. They're not all French-speaking.
And that was really funny. I thought that they were all French-speaking, and then I went over to Home Depot. I saw all these Haitians and beautiful brothers, and I figured we're going to bring them and get them to work and everything else of that nature. I said, who speaks English? Nobody spoke English. Anybody speak French? No. But we speak Spanish. I'm like, That threw me off, because I had to go back and bring somebody over that I knew that could communicate. But it was uniquely different because there are assumptions that are being made about different cultural groups. And for the Haitians, they're being demonized now and everything. And I want people to understand this. Black people are being demonized. They're just under the cover of being Haitian. But when Donald Trump's talk about eating pets and everything else, he's really saying the black immigrants that are coming over here are doing all this stuff. So we gotta read between the lines of what Donald Trump is really saying. And here's the thing. He is saying it in such an overt and blatant way that it's not even reading between the lines. He's just saying it right up in your face.
Because he has to say it that way for his base. Because his base is not interested in the facts. They're just interested in him echoing what they need to believe to dehumanize the people that they want to get rid of so that they will feel better about it.
And dehumanizing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like they did the slaves.
Yeah.
We made them less than men, less than human.
Because you can't do what you do to people when you're still giving them the respect that goes. I was reviewing the other day in my mind, I was thinking about the Declaration of Independence because Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration by himself. And I think he was just 30 or almost less than 30 years old. He spoke several languages when he did it. But the important thing is, I like the wording. If you think about what I'm about to say, all men are created equal, and all men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. That among these rights are the pursuit of life, liberty, if you will, you see. And so the freedom to pursue life and liberty, and what's the third one? That
Pursuit of happiness?
Happiness, thank you. And so it caught me on the happiness piece because there's no constitutional guarantee of happiness. You just guaranteed the right to pursue it. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so this is what's been taking place. These people are coming here in those kind of pursuits, and we have people here fighting against it. I don't hear folks speaking about how Trump snatched kids from families. We had kids behind the fence with Mylar blankets. The parents were one place, the kids were gone. But you're going to stand there and talk about what Harris isn't doing on immigration and the Democrats is not as strong as they should be on. No, we put a bill out there and you stopped it.
Yeah.
And so the polling, the national polling shows Harris with a 49 to 45% lead, 4 points. But then when you start getting to the issues, I don't understand how the same poll shows that Trump is ahead of her on the economy. He hasn't offered anything to lower prices, to change inflation, to bring down the price of fuel, to deal with the environment. He hasn't done anything. And they're not asking him to do anything. He gets up and rambles, and they're beginning to catch on. But every time she speaks, she's giving specifics. And we have an obligation to get involved. You might not love the sister, but right now, she's the best game in town.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go over to the storms and the preparation. I
Yes.
actually think that Biden and the Biden administration are approaching the storms and the support of the storm victims very, very well. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I've had the experience in the past of being in the military on duty through all kinds of crises and having to rescue people and put down violence and doing all of those things as a military police officer. And I think it's very significant that the president has put federal troops in because normally what they do is they try to just pull up the National Guard. Mm-hmm. Well, the National Guard are people who have homes and families that are caught up in it. Mm-hmm. And they have to leave their families by law and go and serve and doing other things, not knowing what's happening to their families back there. That's important. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I've never known another president to activate 1,000, not activate, but to reassign 1,000 active duty troops to a disaster area. Yeah. To make a difference in terms of trying to anticipate everything they can do to help save lives. We out here, we ought to be on our knees every day. When you think about the businesses, the homes, everything that people own gone. Little businesses like you and I, that would be the end for us. There's no rehabilitating us. If our business is gone and the people who do business with us are gone, and we don't carry the kind of insurance that's going to give us the money back that we've lost while we're waiting, FEMA's not going to come in and help us get back on our feet. Mm-hmm. And so we have such a phenomenal opportunity to be thankful and to see what we can do to help others.
Yeah. And now, moving forward, recommendations of where people can send support money, support help for the storm victims, and the safest spot to do that in.
Well, that's always tricky for us because, on the one hand, we all want to use the Red Cross. I'm sure FEMA and them, they put up a bunch of sites where funds can be sent. But I think you need to verify the sites because the scammers will be out there with crooked sites to take money. So you need to verify. It takes more than just showing a U.S. government seal saying send money, because anybody can take the seal and put it on a website.
Yeah.
And you sending money and it's going in their pockets. They never see it. So that's why they encourage people to use the Red Cross, because at least there's accountability there. But many instances before, we have had collection points here in San Diego, according to some of the ethnic communities, and people have loaded up planes and truck caravans and everything, and volunteers have gone to help these people. My wife did that with Katrina years ago. After Katrina hit, she's volunteered with the Red Cross and went down to Louisiana and stayed a whole month sleeping on the floor and working as a volunteer, helping people. And unfortunately, a lot of that came back just a few years ago because all of what she was breathing, like people breathing from the debris of 9/11, she had developed nodules in her throat from it that had to be removed. Wow. So there are consequences to our supporting people, and we still fighting fires here. We sending people. Look, folks, there's so much going on around us that we should not be sitting down arguing with each other about anything. The only thing on our mind should be who can we help and how can we be of help. I think that's so important.
Okay, I was looking at this. It said, "I think you forgot about jobs," but I think she meant to say, she said, "I think you forgot about Joe, Dr. Warren. He didn't have FEMA." Okay.
Yeah, he had God though.
Yeah. LaJean is very special because
Right.
I sure didn't read it as job. I said, "What do you mean you forgot about job?"
No, she said she meant Joe, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
right.
Okay, so moving forward, let's come back to California and let's talk about really the presidential race and then the upcoming propositions and the elections that are coming up. There are a lot of things that are getting ready to take place and have taken place. Let's just talk about ballots being sent out and what we should be looking for.
Well, let's look at what we call the down ballot, which is all those things after we deal with president and Congress. We know that is Harris and Walz. We know that what's his name, the senator. God, I'm getting blocks here mentally.
That's running against the baseball player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam Schiff.
Yeah.
We know that he's going to be okay if we vote, okay? But we got these assembly seats we got to look at, okay? Closer to home, we're looking at the 79th. A lot of us want to see Lachey Collins Sharp take that position. And we're looking at Akila Weber trying to move up to the Senate to replace Tony Atkins. And so that's not just going to be a cakewalk by itself. We got a city attorney race going on here. And someone that we knew as an assembly member, Mainshine, is term out in the assembly. He is running against Heather for the city attorney position, and she's already working in the office. And I had initially endorsed Mainshine, but I pulled my endorsement from him last week because Mainshine pushed for a bill in the assembly that brings harm to small media entities, even though we tried to share with him and his staff that this bill wasn't ready for action. He pushed, it passed, and fortunately, there were elements that were present to get the governor to veto. And so I don't think we can vote for people who work against our interests, all right? Because I tried to share our interests with him, couldn't get any further than his staff. What you need to think about as a voter is how accessible are these people to you personally that want you to vote for them?
Yeah.
Are they accessible? And one of the things I keep trying to get people to understand is when I talk about the Voice and Viewpoint and community papers, it's not that we need their money, their 50 cents for their ads. Of course, all dollars help, but it's the principle to get the community to understand that they don't treat other communities the way they treat us. Case in point, billions of dollars are being spent on all of these elections with predominantly majority white media entities because those people vote. But guess what? Our element votes too.
Yeah.
Those who are 50 and older do vote in terms of what's happening. You don't see people coming to us spending money with our local community media, but at the same time, they're going to want to show up on the Sunday before the election on, November 3rd, smiling and grinning and kissing babies. And I hope you're not going to be dumb enough to fall for it. And so if people don't have enough respect to interact with you before they get elected, what makes you think they're going to do something for you after they get elected? And you are affected by this election, folks.
Yes.
If you are living and breathing, this thing impacts you.
Yes.
Okay? Whether you got a job, whether you're going to pay more rent, whether gas is going to go up, whatever, are you going to be able to benefit from Medi-Cal? Whatever is going on, you are impacted by this, and you need to pay attention. The ballots went out. I've got mine in the mail. People are getting their ballots. They made it so easy. Drop boxes at the library. You can fill your ballot out, and the way they've got a QR code, you can track your ballot in the mail.
Yeah.
Or you can go out to the register of voter and drop it in the box directly. So let's not miss this.
Yeah, and I think more than anything else, we must get involved, get your ballots. If you haven't gotten your ballots by next week, you need to contact the voter registrars to make sure that you get your ballots or go directly there and vote. Even though I get the ballots, I like to walk mine in or vote right there because I like to hand deliver to make sure everything's all good.
A lot of us like to do that, and we have a habit. My wife and I, we drive out to the register of voters and personally drop it right in the box with the people standing outside the building in terms of getting our ballots done. We sit at home and we go through it. And we put our recommendations in the paper because over the past 25, 30 years, people have asked us to tell them what we think about elections. And the ballot is so very long. And it's kind of ironic because when I ran for office, people still wanted to see the ballot that didn't vote for me, but they voted the recommendations that were on the ballot. Yeah. And you can take it on your iPhone and the ballot, and you can look at it because you can't just be marking people.
Yeah.
So we identify people. I give you a case in point. We're not just in San Diego. There's a sister running in Chula Vista, Tanya Williams for school board. We're supporting her. There's a sister, Dr. Miller, running in Grossmont out there in the district. We're supporting her. We're reaching beyond because we're all over San Diego. There's a person running for the County Board of Education. We've recommended we're supporting them. There are people running for the San Diego Unified School Board. Not only did I look at them, but I talked to our representative, Dr. Sharon Whitehurst Payne, to see how she felt, being close to the ground about the people running, and encourage the recommendation. So I research these people in terms of who we vote for, what they stand for. There are people running at Southwestern College. I had conversations with them. I've endorsed Noah Vargas. I know she had issues in the community. Yes, she did. I endorsed Joel Anderson. He's from East County, and he's a Republican. But these are people that we can deal with. And Desmond up north, okay, yes. And we've tried to endorse Tara Lawson-Rima for District 3 over Kevin Faulkner, who I think is just trying to find another job, someplace to go after terming out as mayor. Okay, but folks, we're voting based on a bigger picture, okay? And the bigger picture is that if Lawson-Rima gets elected, we can keep a majority Democrat on the Board of Supervisors, okay? And so there'll be times we can use Republican vote, but we're not going in there just counting on one person. Our success on the Board of Supervisors does not rest solely on the vote of Monica Montgomery Stepp representing the 4th District, because it always takes 3 on the board or 5 on the city council to get something passed. So we need to expand our base in terms of our friendships and our support so that we can be more involved in terms of the issues, and we can literally give support to the people that we say we're supporting.
And you know, one of the things about it, and I think that what we would say is build stronger alliances with the people that we have had alliances with, but also growing our alliances, because the thing is that the African and African American people are just not located in southeastern San Diego or on District 4, but we're all over the county. Now we literally can say that we have a block. If we were to cut it off, our block would have to go, and I say for San Diegans, have to go all the way up to Temecula, because there's so many San Diegans that moved to Temecula. So we could go from Temecula down to
Yeah, but they're
Escondido.
not all in San Diego County.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
when we look at how far and expansive
Right.
we are as African American people and African people, we're not just centralized in one area. So we have to think larger than just
We do.
one area.
But some people would want to keep us confined to one area, and that we cannot allow to do, to let that happen. And so we've got to pay close attention, and the names and the people that are on the ballot, remember the propositions. There are 10 state propositions. There are 3 measures for the city of San Diego, but there are also measures on the ballot for other areas. And we have looked at them, and we have decided to make a suggestion or recommendation on some of them based on where they are, what the issues are, and what the communities are like.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a lot of time, folks, to sit down and go through all of this stuff. Because when you look at our proposition recommendation, we give you the pros and cons before we make our recommendation.
Well, let's just have a real conversation, Dr. Warren. You have set up Biscuits, Grits, and Politics this coming Tuesday at the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint for roughly about 55 people to have a real conversations about politics. So it's a place where they're going to be able to get good food, because they're going to have catfish and grits and sausage and biscuits and all those good things, but they're going to have great conversation and really be able to talk over candidates, talk over propositions, ask questions. And what I love is that when we do get together, we always say class is in session.
Yeah.
So because I think that the old thing about, if you want to have a great discussion, put us together among food and start having a great discussion about what's going to take place. So I want to encourage everybody, if they have not already done so, to go to Eventbrite and look up Biscuits, Grits, and Politics. If you want to get a little bit more in-depth conversation about the upcoming election, bills and propositions, definitely come to Biscuits, Grits, and Politics on this coming Tuesday, Eventbrite. The cost of the tickets are only $20. Now, again, that's the best breakfast in town for $20, and we're going to be doing it more and more. We have this one coming up on the
October 15th.
October
is Tuesday.
15th, and then we're going to do something that we haven't done
We have
in a long
November
time.
19th.
Yeah, but we're going to do something we haven't done in years, and that is that we're going to be doing a watch party, and it's going to be live.
Yes. And that comes before the November Biscuits and Grits.
Exactly.
Because the watch party is going to be on the night of November 5th. You can go on the Eventbrite and register for it. That's free. There's no charge for it. And it's going to be twofold. It's going to be, number one, live, where if you're looking at CNN or MSNBC or KUSI, we have the big screen and the cameras that you can see those vote returns, in addition to the streaming that's going to be going when they release the local votes at 8 o'clock our time from the morning ballot.
Yeah.
So we're going to open the doors at 5, and we're going to be there from like 5 to 11. And that's going to be very important because the polls close at 8 o'clock on the East Coast, which is 5 o'clock here. And we're going to be able to track the Electoral College votes and the counts in terms of the presidential and the Senate and the Congress and all of those races. And it's going to be a place where, yeah, we're going to have some refreshments for it. And, you know, we don't have a sponsor for this. Voice and Viewpoint is doing this. Dr. Thompson with Mandate, Project Impact, GOD is bringing cameras because we're going to stream this in such a way that we'll have microphones there, and we will have an opportunity for some people who are in other locations to call in and interact with us in
Yeah.
terms of what we're doing.
So,
Okay.
so one of the things that we do want to say is that we want to have the dialogue. Even if you come to the watch party and you can't stay, or you're going to several watch parties, come on through. Stop by the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. Especially if you're a candidate, or especially if you have what we call a horse in the race. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I have two big horses in the race, if you will, that I'm supporting, and that's Dr. Akila Weber and Dr. Lachey Sharp Collins. And we're very excited because I always say that this could be the year of the woman. You know what I'm saying? You look
It is the year of
you
the
know,
woman.
if we can break the glass ceiling and get Kamala Harris in, and all the women that are taking great positions throughout our state and our city. And I want to say this as, and I want to quote this from an African-American preacher. And he said something simply like this. He said, well, I want you to know that I'm all in. He said, because I will never let a man that don't look like me, he said something else I'm going to say, I'm paraphrasing, disrespect a woman, a black woman. He said, who has proven herself through her education, her experience, and everything. He said, I want you to know I'm all in. I will never stand by and let somebody disrespect our black sisters. And I'm saying this to all African American and men of color. We cannot stand by and allow Donald Trump and JD, the dumb Vance, the Chuckies of the group, to disrespect our women, our culture, our people.
And ourselves.
Yeah.
And ourselves,
Yes.
because that's the ultimate insult, that they don't care about what we think or what we say. And we can't wait till after November 5 to start demanding respect. You demand respect with your vote,
Yeah.
and your vote reflects your respect, you see.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's going to make a difference because we got major stuff on the ballot.
Major.
Proposition 36 is going to hit so many because what they're trying to do is neutralize Prop 47, which made things like having some marijuana a misdemeanor. They want to turn it back to a felony. It made things like stealing something under $950 a misdemeanor. They want to increase the ante there. And no, we're not encouraging crime, but we can't allow people to do blanket wiping away of some gains that we're making just because a few people are uncomfortable. We don't support the what we call them raid and smash and grabs.
Yeah.
We don't support those things, but we can't let those become the excuse for taking away other rights,
Exactly.
and that's important.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we are definitely going to be about law and order, because again, we're business people too, and we don't want anybody coming through our businesses snatching and grabbing. But we also don't want it to be going back to the days where they would have crack cocaine, and crack cocaine
No.
would get 50 years.
We're not
And-
going back to those days that it was one standard for whites, another for blacks. But I want to get back to biscuit grits, folks, because, you know, this is something, an idea, and we've done this before. We're going to continue to do it. There's some imitations out there, but we have made it a point to try and provide a setting where we can come together. And this is open to everyone. This is not like Black Men and Women United, where that's just a particular group. This is open. Doesn't matter what color, what nationality you are. We've had people from Arab, Latino, Jewish. We've had people come from all walks of life. We've done biscuit grits a year ago this time. We were doing it in terms of part of our war to stop the hate. And so what we want to have when we say politics, I don't know of places where you can come and share some of your views and not have somebody hit you with the clock or tell you they don't want to hear it or they don't have time. We got the time. And if we have to go longer than 8:30 for people to say what they got to say, that's fine. And if we have enough and there's seconds, there ain't no charge for that either if you go back. But you ought to come, if you cannot master Eventbrite in terms of signing up, then you can stop by the office and pay your money between now and noon on Monday. I'm telling you, there will be no ticket sales at the door. And we need, because we have to plan and we've already planned and are paying for what we said, and we would want to see people. We don't have a sponsor for this. Dr. Thompson from GOD Radio and Voice and Viewpoint, we are footing this bill to make this happen because that's the kind of faith that we have in the community. And your $20 can make a difference.
And you know, I got jokes because you always got somebody that come and say, well, I brought my $20. We're going to have to then say to them, you know what? We're going to take $10 and you can get some coffee. You get some coffee, maybe some juice. But so far as the food is concerned, it's all there. And remember back in the day with the Catfish Club, it came to a point where they would say to you, there's no more room in the inn because we have a certain number that if you didn't buy in advance.
Yeah, because they cook based on the number, okay?
Exactly.
And food and everything costs much more than it did a year ago this time.
And I was offended because I went to a Catfish Club and I paid my money. When I got there, all they had was chicken because the catfish was gone. I was like, but where's the catfish? That was for the people that came on time.
Okay. And so we got catfish nuggets, and we're going to start serving at 6:45, okay? And the grits are going to be good and hot and buttery, and I can tell you there's not going to be no cheese in them. It's going to be the regular grits with butter if you want it. I'm telling you.
See, Dr. Warren. See, Dr. Warren, you're going to start that whole argument that was on social media between does grits is salt and butter and pepper or sugar, and you done banned the cheese.
We ain't having no, we're not having the cheese, and I don't know anybody that puts sugar on grits. And if they want to, we have some sugar for them. But the grits that we serve for everybody, they won't come with sugar. They're going to come with the eggs and the catfish and the hot biscuits, okay? And the biscuits will not be Pillsbury, all right?
Yeah.
They got some real biscuits that they're going to be serving up with juice and coffee. That's what we're having, all right?
Yeah. And again, it is fellowship. And I want to say that that the breaking of the bread and for us coming together is we start off early, we start on time, and then we end on time. The overflow is that if there's still conversations going, people can continue to choose to go, but we want to make sure that we get people in and out so that they can make it back to their offices or their plan for the day.
And so we'll open the doors at 6:30, and we'll stop serving at 6:45. Now, that's important because, you know, in the South, we want hot food. We're not going to serve you no cold grits or cold eggs or catfish. The food's going to be hot, and it can be hot if you were there in time to get your plate. You ain't got to talk to nobody, but go sit and eat, and you can talk after you eat if you want to, okay?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to do. We're excited about it.
Yeah, we're very, very excited. Again, getting back to these conversations, and I know that that we're taking on the sponsorship of these things that are coming in, but more than anything else, we know the sponsors are going to come. The thing that makes it difficult with business and politics is not anybody can be a sponsor because, you know, there's got to be a standard. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be sponsored by Manischewitz, you know, or Schlitz Malt Liquor or anything like that.
No.
So we
or
are
the
very,
local cannabis, the distributor, right?
Yeah. So we are very conscious about who is allowed to sponsor because, again, we put this out there and it's out there forever.
But in the absence of that, okay, we make the meal $20. And, of course, we will accept donations if you come, because some people have already given some donations that go toward the cost of what we're doing. And so the Voice and Viewpoint is located at College and Streamview behind the 7-Eleven. Big sign, you can't miss it. 3619 College is right up there. You can see it from the street. You can come up the hill from Walmart, or you can come up, College from University, and you can't miss it. And you'll be right there. And so we welcome you.
Plenty of parking?
Parking, plenty of parking, okay. And it's going to work. So we need you to come on and sign up because, see, when it gets to be more than the number, then, we probably can. We're not going to stream unless we hit the number that we have. If we get the number, we'll stream for anyone beyond that.
And, you know, Dr. Warren, some people are closer, might be just a little bit closer to this office because they always come here because they win tickets and everything.
Right.
So if there's somebody that says, you know what, can we stop by the GOD Radio studios?
If they stop by here and leave their money and we got their names, we'll have it.
Yeah.
We'll have it.
We'll
It's
take
not
care.
like we need their ticket to go buy the food. We've already paid for everything
Yeah.
that's going to take place.
Yeah, and
And we now it's just a matter of getting you there to enjoy it.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing I want to say to everybody is we're looking at community. We're looking at how do we bring ourselves together. Again, we can be together and agree. We could agree to disagree. We could be in the house and not like the conversation, but be in the conversation. I just keep on encouraging people, don't take your toys and go home. Stay in the conversation because we're not going to always see eye to eye. But together, we have to live together in this community. And when all this election stuff is over, we still got to do the work.
Yeah.
We still got to be the voice. We still got to continue to push out the information to help us to grow. So I want to encourage everybody. It is time for us to come together. And, as ministers, Dr. Warren, if we only preach to folks that we liked in the congregation, sometime there'll be just me in the wall sometime, you know what I'm saying?
Well, Jesus covered that one, because when they got on him for hanging out with the sinners, and he just looked at them and said, it's the sick that need the doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here we are. We're all sick, and we all want to talk because one of the flaws of our community is we don't talk enough to each other. And because we are so passionate about what we feel, so many times our conversations can be stronger and to some people more violent than they think. But at the same time, we're still trying. We don't have any choice, okay? Mm-hmm. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Warren, we have about a minute left. And so I want to make sure that we hit on your editorial this week and some of the highlights of the newspaper. Well,
this editorial this week is online, and I think it's going to be very powerful. It's gone out to 240-some African-American media outlets around the country. And what I do is I say, remember Dr. King and the ballot. And I quote him, and then I remind us of what we need to do based on what he said. So we can't wait to January and go to all these events and hold hands and saying we shall overcome, when this is the time we overcome right now at the ballot box. Because he tells you, read that editorial, give us the ballot. It's online, it's in print. And if you want to know and be encouraged about voting, pick up the Voice and Viewpoint this week.
Amen.
All right.
With that being said, we want to thank everybody for tuning in from the desk of the editor. We're asking that you continue to get your newspaper, go online, check out the information on propositions and the endorsements from the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, and tune into GOD Radio 1, our app, and our online presence at godradio1.com. Make sure you download both the apps for GOD Radio 1 as well as the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. We need your support and continued listenership and readership. Together, we will make a change because of people without a voice
Cannot be heard.
Y'all be blessed.
Thank you.